Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Super Slip Screen Brothers. Um, we had an amazing weekend. We'll be doing a recap of it, and in addition, kind of talking about some general stuff. But first off, so Jared, what you been playing, playa?
Well, first off, I watched the Snyder cut for the 13th time, so I got to watch it again to keep it to keep an even number. I like having the even number, and I actually watched all three Snyderverse all three of Zack Snyder's DC movies this weekend for obvious reasons. And in terms of gaming, I haven't really been gaming that much because I've been doing YouTube, and this weekend was like a lot to keep track of. Oh, also I watched two of the three panels. Number two is my favorite for a lot of different reasons. But
We
in
we,
terms
we
of what
have
I've been,
yeah, we got a new second Warner Brothers.
oh yeah, and then in terms of like what I've been reading, I'm reading a lot of Batman and Son, which is the introduction of Damian Wayne and such. And I'm like, yeah, I could see why people didn't like him at first. And I finished reading Superman Brainiac by Jeff Johns. Speaking of full circle, that was awesome, by the way. I said I will clip
Well,
that as soon as it's available. But anyway,
yeah, we're gonna bit of hair ourselves that one.
but yeah, but and that's genuinely in what I've been. Oh yeah, so actually, in terms of gaming, I played some Call of Duty recently, Modern Warfare 2 remastered, not the modern one, the remaster of the original campaign. So I was like, okay, I haven't played this for a while. I'll check it out. And I'm thinking of starting another playthrough of the Injustice games because I love those games so much.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what I've been doing. What about you?
Uh, let's
Oh,
see here. I've
this would
been
help.
playing some more Mass Effect. I ended up kind of getting burnt out on it because the problem with the first game is it's actually really repetitive, like in terms of gameplay.
Which is why I
I'm like,
say just do the main story so you can just move on. Because there's a lot to do in that game. Like, wow.
yeah, I'm like right at the last mission. I'm just, I got other things to play. Like I started kind of getting the urge to play World of Warcraft again, so I resubbed, downloaded some stuff, kind of checked out my old characters. I'll probably be diving into that one this week. That should be interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so and then the May the 4th sale is going to be coming up. I'm going to try and grab Night Silver Republic for Switch so I can start playing that again. I have it for PC, so I can play it there, but I don't know. I kind of want it on my Switch, so I can just kind of do a playthrough on it.
You should also see, by the way, if you could get like Jedi Survivor on sale.
Um, I don't know if you've heard, but the PC port is
Oh
like really,
yeah. Oh yeah. Jay Heat and
which is
Salati were telling me about that.
so yeah. I was kind of interested in it, but like now that I hear about the PC port, I'm like no.
I would
Plus,
wait like a couple of months until it's like fixed, mostly, if you're gonna do
yeah,
it at all.
plus with me, I'm not really a big supporter of the $70 video games.
Oh yeah, that's the
So
other thing.
so a game has to really, really grab me to get me to want to buy it new. Yeah. Honestly, my habit is I usually play these big releases like a year or two after they come out. Like I just wait for a big sale. Like probably the next game that I'm kind of eyeing is Horizon Zero Dawn. Waiting for a big sale on that one. Um, yeah, I like it that the Sony games are coming to PC, and plus, Sony said that like they're going to be bringing more of their the games to PC. So I'm waiting on Ghost of Tsushima to come to PC. Trust me. Also, Jared, that's going to be a game that you're going to want to play on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Is that it in terms of what you've
So
been doing?
Jared, do you consider yourself a fan?
Speaking of which, yes, of course I do. I think you can clearly see from what's around me and what I'm wearing that, yeah, I am a fan of stuff.
Of stuff.
Stuff. Exactly.
So, speaking of fan movements, I think we need to just kind of give a brief recap of our weekend's events. So, Jared, would you like to give kind of the audience a little bit of a rundown of
Sure.
our activities over the weekend, which were quite
So
eventful?
this weekend was the full circle event for the Snyder fandom. It's basically SnyderCon 2, and basically what it is, fans come together and watch all three of Zack Snyder's DC movies, and then after each one, he holds like a special panel to answer questions and such. So it was really fun. What we did um we each streamed each panel on each other's channel. Like Jahid and Taladia co-streamed Man of Steel. I did BVS. Nick did Zack Snyder's Justice League. And what's kind of interesting is that we got the best live stream numbers we have ever gotten. Like, I was astounded about how good my stream did, and all of our streams did, because again, like I always say, covering Zack Snyder, especially positively, actually helps your stuff. And we learned a lot of very interesting stuff, like that Zack Snyder's not really a Wonder Bat fan. So there you go. I love that. And that, get this, Zeus and Ares are Kryptonians according to, I mean, it's an unused idea. I just choose to make it canon in my own head, because guess what? Because I can, there's nothing that contradicts it. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Nick? What did you think of this weekend's festivities?
I thought it was really great. Ultimately, a tad disappointing, but I think that's more of a me problem rather than a Zach problem.
Yeah, because I was telling you, I was trying to moderate my expectations. Now, what we can be happy for is that based upon Zach's statements in the BVS, based upon the BVS panel alone, I think we can say that maybe something is happening. Because why else would he
Yeah.
not want to spoil how Robin died, for instance? If there was really no chance, if something were not happening, he would just tell us. He would just say, okay, so here's what happened to Robin. There you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of those kind of moments.
Particularly the panel moderator saying it might be a spoiler for something we could get to see in the near future. So I'm like,
Plus, you had that moment where it's like where someone said, "Oh yeah, on Netflix," and Zach was like, "Yeah," and then
nice.
then he kind of paused and like he got really clammy after that.
And let's not forget the most awesome moment. As soon as Ray Porter said, okay, so brilliant actor, brilliant director, brilliant writer, and the best Batman, I was like, wait, what? And for those of you that want to see Nick's reaction, it was intense. And then finally, we got the greatest. So what happened was someone asked Zach if he ever wanted to adapt Doomsday Clock. This is just something that we referenced in the previous thing. So they went, is that the Jeff Johns book? Yeah. And then two of the panelists dropped the mics and walked out. And then Zach goes, oh yeah, I'm probably, oh yeah, probably not. And then the entire fan base reacted with, that's pretty much the way it turned out. Is not right, Nick?
Pretty much. That, like, there was a literal mic drop.
I'm clipping that. I like put it this way. That BVS thing alone has given me so many clips.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Nick, what do you want to talk about?
So basically, I kind of want to just touch upon fan movements, their impact, and just generally kind of their importance. So fan movements are pretty old. Probably one, just give very brief overview on some of the important ones. So probably the first one of note is Star Trek, the original Star Trek. Is that was actually going to get canceled, I believe, after like the first, second season, and the fans rallied, and they got it going again. Mm-hmm. Or you know, in Star Trek, like I always refer to Star Trek as like the original fandom, because while there were like fandoms for stuff before, like there was a Sherlock Holmes fandom back in the 1800s. Like Arthur Conan Doyle, the reason he killed Sherlock Holmes was because he got tired of the fans. So this stuff goes back a long time. But I always refer to Star Trek is because it's the first time we had fandom as we know it now, or at least in a more primitive form. But it's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like like for fan fiction, cons. Like as we know it now, Star Trek was kind of the first time we saw fandom in that form.
Oh yeah, because even if you see like movies that take place around before being fandoms was cool, the Star Trek people were always the people that were like nerds who dressed up with costumes and stuff. So it was essentially that.
Yeah. And then another big one, and this next one is a little bit closer to my heart, is Firefly.
Yes.
So,
The
uh,
one good thing He Who Must Not Be Named has produced. Well, two, because even though I haven't seen Buffy, I'll still count it.
but yeah, Buffy's good. But we'll probably do a rewatch of Firefly in between Avatar and BSG, I think,
Yes.
because it's like 12 episodes, and I think that's a fine kind of intermission between.
And then as soon as we finish the series, I vote one of our picks for movie night is Serenity.
I would be okay with that.
But anyway, but what were you saying?
So basically, Firefly, it's infamous for being canceled, and there was like the big strategy, like the DVD sales were through the roof. I actually got the DVD set. And that was what convinced Paramount to do the movie. Now, the movie itself didn't do that well, but the fact that a canceled TV show later got a movie is huge.
And by the way, the movie was awesome.
Yes.
At least in my humble opinion, it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good. Not what I would want, but you gotta take what you can get.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so that was your first exposure. Do you mind if I tell you my first exposure to fandom?
Oh, please, by all means.
Really, it was the Snyder movement because, like I've said before, I got into comics 2 years ago, and because of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I didn't know. I knew there was the release the Snyder Cut movement, but I didn't know how like big it got. I didn't know about the 1.5 million tweets that happened, and then Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa, and then Zack Snyder all shared that tweet. I didn't know like that happened. The most I ever saw was when after the movie came out, Restore the Snyderverse trended 1.5 million tweets, and Warner Brothers saw that and said, "Nah," but that's just Warner Brothers. But that was like my first time looking at a group and going, "Oh, this is actually pretty cool." And obviously, in any fan group, you're gonna have bad apples. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. Like not just fan group. Whenever you have a group of people, it's going to one or two of those people are going to be hostile. But you see, I was taught with critical thinking skills, and I can, yes, it's definitely critical thinking skills because I can identify the logical fallacy it is when people say, "Oh, the Snyder fandom is so toxic." No, you should say the toxic component of the toxic group in Snyder's fandom. That would be a good way to differentiate it instead of saying the Snyder fans. Sorry, but anyway, this isn't like a thing about that. But anyway, that's how I got really into fandom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really crazy how fan movements have kind of taken upon a different flavor with
Mm-hmm.
not just the internet age, but like the social media age. Because
Yeah.
back in like the '60s or even up until the 2000s, fan movements took upon like letter writing campaigns or all this kind of stuff. Like I remember this one fan campaign for Stephanie Brown. They wanted to mail waffles to DC Comics office because I guess Stephanie Brown waffles or something. I don't know. There was like an interview I watched way back when, but yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting how social media has changed like the whole fan movement like landscape because now you can
So
have direct contact with the group.
are you saying the game has changed, son of Flynn?
What's that from?
That's from Tron Legacy.
Okay, I don't remember that line. I saw the movie, but I don't remember that line. I haven't
I
watched it in a
believed
while.
in users once before.
Okay, but that's true.
All right, we
But
gotta watch that movie sometime.
yeah, that'll probably end up being a U pick for that. But
More than likely.
Yeah. And I mean, you see, here's the thing about it is that it's like even with like the Zack Snyder's like sell the Snyder versus to Netflix that passed like a million tweets, and the thing about it is that obviously social media is not the most reliable like temperature gauge on fandom because of fake accounts and bots and such. But remember actually when I think like Variety tried to publish an article trying to accuse the Snyder fandom of cheating on the Oscar fan favorite, and the Oscars came out and said, "Oh no, it was all legit," and they actually outlined their process for determining which votes were real and which were not. And the only reason why people were upset, by the way, is because the Snyder movie won. Because if like Spider-Man or Endgame won, they wouldn't have thrown a fit. That's just the way it works.
Yep. So like, so some of the fan movements that are definitely kind of important to us that are like in our orbit, and these are not like the most important fan movements. They're the ones that are important to us. Now, I'd say obviously, sell Zack Snyder to Netflix, store a Snyderverse, whatever flavor of it you want to push. Uh, that's the big one. But there's two others that are also really important, and those are release the Schumacher cut and release the Ayer cut.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I'm a really big proponent of release the Schumacher cut. So I'm going to talk about the Schumacher cut, and then when we get the Ayer cut, I'm going to hand that over to you. You kind of get that detail. So basically, Batman Forever. The much maligned kind of thing. If you look into like the deleted scenes, it's very clear that Schumacher had a very different movie in mind. And if you look at like a lot of like Schumacher's other movies, like other films in particular, like if you look at films like The Lost Boys, Schumacher is actually capable of like a much darker affair. Like anyone who doubts if Schumacher can make a Batman movie, I tell them to go watch The Lost Boys. That is practically a Batman movie, almost.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Lost Boys?
Mm-mm.
Okay, we're gonna have to fix that this October. Yeah, I'm insisting we add that. So, yes. But that's a conversation a few months down line. But yeah, so basically, the release of Schumacher cut is basically we want a director's cut of Batman Forever, which has those darker scenes, just kind of take on a whole different context. Jared, what exactly does the Ayer cut entail, and what's the current status of that movement?
All right, so what you guys have to understand about the Ayer cut is okay. So Suicide Squad came out after BVS. The thing about it is that was not the movie that David Ayer wanted to release. Why does this sound familiar? So, like in the trailers, you saw lots of Jared Leto's Joker. The trailer looked a lot different from the actual movie. That's because Warner Brothers had a trailer company cut together a movie.
Okay, there's a little bit more context of that I want to share. So you had the initial trailer, which was like a little bit more darker and whatnot. That was probably closer to Ayer's vision. And then WB released a trailer where the trailer itself was synced to Bohemian Rhapsody for Queen. Okay, and that trailer did really well. Like it was really popular. People liked it. So what they did is they had the trailer company recut the movie, and we're not going to go into like the whole problem with Suicide Squad. Personally, I like the movie, but it has
I liked it too. But from what I've seen of David Ayer, like talking about his movie, it's way better. Like for one thing, it has more Joker in it. Steppenwolf shows up. To give you an idea, because this was meant to tie into Zack Snyder's Justice League. For instance, instead of like Enchantress all of a sudden becoming evil, she's under the control of the Mother Boxes, which...
Oh my god, that actually makes sense.
I know, right? I'm just like... You could have had a more cohesive universe, and you chose to like screw with it. And that is completely stupid.
I gotta say this: why the duck I mean, it's my channel, I can curse, but I'm just gonna do it anyway because of you.
Thank
Why
you.
the heck? If she could take care of the heart, if she could literally, if it was that easy for Enchantress to steal it, why did she not do it earlier?
Yeah, I know, right?
And like, I guarantee you, that's not the first time she's used the heart to control Enchantress. That is not the first time that's happened to her.
No, absolutely not. But again, this would have been a little better because she's under mind control. But and also like Diablo does not die. It's like tons of ways. This movie is different. Chiefly, it plays a lot off of Jared Leto's Joker's relationship with Harley Quinn and shows the more abusive relationship. Then Harley Quinn falls in love with Deadshot, which actually did happen in the comics around the time. We would have had more.
Yahtzee!
We would have had more of Ben Affleck's Batman, which you can never have too much of Ben Affleck's Batman. So,
No,
in other
no.
words, it's a completely different movie. And David Ayer basically said it's basically done. Just it's not going to take like $70 million to complete the movie. It's going to take a significantly shorter, like a significantly smaller amount of money. Like it's practically done. The VFX is practically done. They just have a few things they need to tweak, and then they're done. So there's
Didn't
literally no reason. There's literally no financial like impediment to releasing this movie.
wasn't there like a screening of the Ayer cut last fall?
Yeah, exactly. A couple of Twitter account, a couple of guys on Twitter that were like heavily promoting the Ayer cut. They got to see the movie and they said, "Oh yeah, it is awesome." There is no, you can't say money. It's not like with the Snyder cut where it required $70 million to work to make it work. No, 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 no. This one, according to David Ayer, requires like significantly less.
Yeah, I could see Ayer cut being a good Max original kind of thing.
Or licensing it to Netflix. Sell the Ayer cut to Netflix. There you go.
Yeah. And like I said on the stream, I think we're gonna hear some stuff more from some more stuff towards Comic Con. I want to okay. This is my crazy speculation territory. Let's put our tinfoil hats on for a moment. I feel like this event was originally planned to announce it, but I feel like the deal didn't proceed as quickly as they needed to, so they couldn't announce anything. So I think they're holding it off towards Comic Con.
Or
that is my conspiracy theory.
The way I think about it, if it's going to be announced, it's most likely to happen after Rebel Moon comes out, because that way Netflix has more leverage to say, hey, we want more Zack Snyder content. It's popular. And because let's be honest, Rebel Moon is basically a Zack Snyder Star Wars movie in a world where Star Wars is crapping the bed. There you go. I guarantee you it's going to do well. So let's say it does gangbusters. Netflix comes to James Gunn and Warner Bros. And is like, hey, listen, we'll pay for the production, all that stuff. We have the money to do it, no matter what anyone tells you to do. That they're devoting $1 billion to Korean movie to Korean original movies. I guarantee you they have enough to do the Batman thing. But anyway, back to my little thing. If it's successful, Netflix can say, hey, we're interested because we want more Zack Snyder stuff. Plus, he practically owns that corner of Netflix. And they can just tell James Gunn, hey, they can tell Zaslav, we will pay you to let us do this content.
Yeah, I think especially if Rebel Moon does like really well, which let's be honest, it probably will. I have a feeling Netflix will be like, hey, Zach, so we like you. You're making us a lot of money. Is there anything you want to do? And he's like, oh, funny you should ask.
Yeah. He'd be like, about that.
It's like, so, could you go up to Zavlov's house and give him like maybe 50 dump trucks full of cash? So we can get like, and they're like, yes.
Yeah, because there's literally at this point, there is literally no reason not to at this point. Because guess what? Even though, it'll clash with James Gunn's universe, don't put it in the movie theaters then, put it on streaming. As much as I would love to see Zack Snyder's Justice League in theaters, if this is the only way I can take it where it's only on Netflix, fine.
I kind of feel like there's going to be a special event, like a 1 day event, where the Snyder Cut is put in theaters, kind of like a 1 day event all across the nation.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's going to happen because,
It's
like,
gonna eventually. It's gonna happen, particularly with another hashtag emerged from the full circle. Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX, because that's what they watched Zack Snyder's Justice League in, with the huge screen. Can you imagine that?
I would go. I would go to see
I
it.
would go see that. That normally I'm not in favor of going to see a movie I already own, but if I can see it in IMAX where I traditionally can't with that movie, sorry, I'm gonna go see that.
Yeah, yeah, me same here. And fun fact, my best friend is actually a huge fan of the Zack Snyder movie. He's kind of a normie, so like he doesn't engage in fandom very much, but he loves the Snyder movies. So, like I was actually talking.
Why haven't you had him on?
He's a normie. Like
He's a Zack Snyder fan. That's all that matters. What are you doing here, dude?
I'll talk to him. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but you know, maybe I'll have him on. I don't know, not for like CLD, but like I could maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I was like, dude, you've been holding out on me. Oh, dude, you have the number one. Anytime I see any normie response to Zack Snyder's Justice League, do you know what the number one response is? When are we getting another one?
Yeah, I will admit, having his perspective on things might be kind of interesting.
And by the way, Jay Heat hit the nail on the head last night when he said on the panel. Here's the thing about it: the Snyder Cut came out and proved what a colossal mess up Warner Media had when they messed with Zack Snyder, because they could have gotten that reception even with a 2.5 hour to 3 hour cut of this movie. They could have had that reception to the Snyderverse, and they completely sabotaged it.
Yeah, because the thing you gotta realize about the Snyder Cut is it is unadulterated, unfiltered Snyder. Like you're getting that shit straight into your veins.
Yeah, and
that being said,
yeah, go ahead.
A 4-hour cut would not work in theaters.
No,
like
2.5 to 3 hours, maybe.
I think 3 hours is probably what I would do, because 3 hours is still pushing it, but you could make it work. 2.5 hours, time wise, would be ideal. But I think 2.5 hours, you might be cutting too much.
Yeah, because here's the thing. You could do 3. I still say you could do 3 hours because you have the Lord of the Rings movies. And there have been very successful movies like Avatar that have been like 3 hours and have been totally fine and made like billions of dollars. So
I think 2.5 hours would definitely be fine with everyone. 3 hours is pushing it. I'm not sure. Like you're kind of like, I don't know.
Plus, here's the thing. It's a Justice League movie. I guarantee you people would see a 3-hour Justice League movie.
Oh, if you release a 3-hour like Endgame into theaters, people would be happy to see it.
Oh, yeah. And then what you could always do, obviously, is just release the 4-hour cut on DVD. That's what they always do with Snyder's movies. Just release the 4-hour cut on DVD and just say, whoever wants to watch it there, that's totally fine. Or put on HBO Max like usual, but just say 2.5 to 3 hour version of Justice League, even 2:45. Movie theaters. There you go.
Yeah, because the thing about the Snyder Cut, and this is not me criticizing it, there are a lot of like extended musical sequences that you could probably either trim down or cut entirely for a theatrical cut.
Well, yeah, and remember that was intentional. Let's not forget about that, because it was like, yeah, everything you want to put in there. But it's like,
yeah, like this is not me criticizing it. I'm just saying, like, there are very obvious things you could cut, or like, oh hey Zach, why don't you just like not do as much slow mo, you know, like the usual like low hanging fruit joke.
But it's a comic book movie. It has to be slow mo. But you know what'd be hilarious? Let's say they do put it in IMAX and it makes $1 billion.
Oh, that's no.
Everyone just might as well just roll up and give the bird to James Gunn's universe at that point. It's like, that made $1 billion. The 4-hour cut made $1 billion.
I'm sorry. My realistic mind is just like, wow.
No, I
cool.
know. But let's say it just does financially.
For the sake of argument.
Let's say it does like really well. Let's say it does monetarily, it does what we want it to do. What's that in theaters? What's that gonna say about the reboot again?
This is a random Warner executive. Hey, Zach. You got any more of those like
Actually,
Snyder cuts?
I'm very thankful that this is Nick's like setup because I have the perfect clip for that. Here's the live footage of the Snyder fandom going to Warner Brothers.
You didn't see that coming?
That's what it is. We're like, we've been telling you, you could have done this. You could have had this in 2017. Granted, a shorter version of Justice League, but they could have had this amount of excitement. Because here's the number one complaint with 2017, besides the fact that the movie sucks. It's forgettable. A Justice League movie is forgettable. With this one, you saw how long people were discussing the Snyder cut even after it came out. Hell, we're still discussing the Snyder movies.
Like people, like honestly, with Justice League, with the version that will not be named, it was discussed heavily for about a year about how bad it was. Like, oh, this is the worst thing yet. Okay, while the version that will not be named is indeed bad, it's not the worst comic movie ever. It's not the worst adaptation ever. Get off your hyperbole horse. Like, I'm sorry, I gotta call some people out.
Let me put it this way: it's the worst. It is the worst in terms of the behind the scenes stuff. Because I draw the line at using a director's daughter's suicide to fire a director.
While bad, it's not like the most worst production. Like, I don't know if you ever like heard the production of Fanforstic. Like, how bad is it when you have the director post on Twitter a week before, I had a better movie a week before, like a year before, but you'll never see it. How bad is it when it's so bad the director gets fired and you actually have to have the producer shadow direct? Like, I'm sorry. While using the suicide is indeed monstrous, in terms of like just general crappiness of production, there are other ones. I mean, not even saying Fanforstic is the worst one, but I'm saying it is objectively a worse production.
Okay. Well, in terms of quality, obviously I still count as the worst because I'm a Justice League fan.
That's your opinion. That's fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. But the point is, it is one of the worst, though. I think we can agree it is one of the worst comic book movies of all time.
And if you want to talk about like worst productions of a movie or comic movie, it's certainly on the list.
I'd say it's at least in the top 5.
I'd say top 10 for sure. I'm not sure about 5, but maybe 5, but definitely top 10.
Because remember, Ben Affleck came out and it almost pushed him to jump out a window.
I'm glad he didn't.
I'm glad he didn't, absolutely. But but the point is like, you know how people keep saying, I see so many people saying on Twitter, why is Zack Snyder's stuff constantly popping into my timeline? Because actually, here's the thing. That's based on how many people are tweeting it. So actually, when you think about it, more people like Zack Snyder stuff than you think they do. I actually it was like when I was debating the Snyderverse on Nerdette's live stream, she thought he wrote all the movies. And I said, no, that was for the first one, it was Goyer. For the second one, it was Terrio. The only one where he had a writing credit, where he actually co-wrote it, was the movie that you said was great, was good. Zack Snyder's Justice League. The most Snyder version is the one that people like the most. What does that tell you?
More Snyder.
Yeah, and I love what came out of the full circle. I find it's hilarious. People were upset about ideas that he threw out, like the Kryptonian gods thing, and I'm like, first off, that's not a bad idea, and second off, it was a rejected idea.
Personally, I'm not sure it's the best idea because I think making Amazon's Kryptonians kind of devalue them.
He didn't do that.
I'm just saying the idea in of itself. Obviously, he didn't do it, but I'm just saying.
No, but I mean that wasn't the idea, though.
To tie their heritage with the Kryptonians.
No, what they did was, okay, that was misunderstood. What happened was that he didn't say. What he did was, there was a Kryptonian living among the Amazons, and like Ares and Zeus were Kryptonians from the scout ship that Superman finds in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
But regardless, people are blasting him for an idea that wasn't in the movie.
Like, I'm sorry, but that makes no sense because that breaks so much canon and lore. It's an idea that can only come from someone who doesn't have that big of a knowledge of the comics. Because, like, why does a Kryptonian have the powers of, like, Zeus, have the power of Ares?
That's actually easily explainable. So someone actually theorized this because, okay, so one of the things that we learned at Full Circle was that Doomsday was behind, like, the actual Doomsday was behind the breaking of the moon at the beginning of Man of Steel. So those of you that know the origin of Doomsday know that he was created because a scientist called Bertram experimented on this baby to make it invulnerable. So what Bertram let's say Bertram exists in the Snyderverse. He could have experimented. He could have experimented on Zeus and Ares. I'm just going to call him Zeus and Ares and be done with it. And to give them these powers, because remember on Krypton they didn't have Kryptonian powers because it's a red sun, so they wouldn't have like the heat vision, the flight, or anything like that. So he gave them the lightning and probably enhanced strength because gods, and essentially to fight Doomsday. Because as far as we know, Doomsday is defeated in Man of Steel because you see the moon, and there's no like reference to him except in BVS. So there are ways to explain it. And second off, with the whole comics thing, here's the difference. Elseworlds.
Yeah, but in my opinion, there are some ideas that are just so out there that, like, even my, like, hey, experimentation, I'm like, no.
Which, okay, but here's the thing. Here's the key point of this. It wasn't used.
I mean, fair enough. But we're just debating the idea as it is. I'm not saying,
which is fine. I consider it canon because I think it makes sense. And plus, there's nothing to really refute it. Luckily, it's up to one's interpretation if they want to be canon or not, because it's not in the movie.
Now, did he talk about, like, Supergirl being among the Amazons, or was that...
He said... He essentially... I believe in Man of Steel, he brought up that there is a Kryptonian living among the Amazons. So, and if we know in the Man of Steel prequel comic, Kara comes to Earth. So I think Kara is one of the Amazons, which actually is in keeping with the comics because she spent a significant amount of time with the Amazons.
See, that one I'm actually a little more open to because, like, I think that sounds perfectly fine. Like, it would actually make a lot of sense why we haven't seen her and whatnot. Also, here's the other thing. Kara could have come to Earth, like, so long ago that, like, Diana thinks she's just another Amazon. Like, she doesn't even know that she's a Kryptonian.
Yeah, and it actually be kind of interesting because since Kara has memories of Krypton, can you imagine what a mind effort would be if she meets Zeus and Ares and knows that they're Kryptonians? If we're taking the other thing as canon too, to be like,
you could even have a headcanon that, like, Hippolyta knew of the Kryptonians.
I would have see. That's actually believable because here's the thing: we know that she had a relationship with Zeus because Diana exists in this universe, and that's the origin for Wonder Woman that we're going with. So it's conceivable that he could have told her, "I'm from another planet." See, and that's the thing. Here's why I like the whole gods being Amazons. First off, it gives an origin to the Greek gods that hasn't been done before, and second off, it does full circle the entire universe around Man of Steel around Superman.
Here's, like, the big problem I have is I really hate it when you take, like, these godlike characters and they're like, oh, they were aliens, oh, they're interdimensional beings. You put up enough of a realistic spin. I want gods to be gods. Like, I don't want them to be aliens. I don't want gods to be, some interdimensional whatever thing.
But remember, it's like anyone would see, like, the Justice League as gods if they didn't know any better.
That's entirely my point. Is is there's kind of like there's been this kind of push in media, like you saw it kind of early Marvel, where it's like, oh, any advanced technology is a single tool for magic. Like they tried to make the Thor society like very advanced technology, and I'm like, I don't like that because it's overly explaining. This is all personal stuff. I'm just gonna say that. I want kind of like that mysteriousness of gods, because if you create a limit for gods, then you limit the story potential. Because if they're gods, they can do anything. But if you say, oh, they're high power Kryptonians, then you kind of put a cap on the ceiling of what they can do. And when it comes to gods, I like that kind of like anything can happen story element.
True. Okay. I can see it, and we can have our disagreement on that. The one thing that I think we both agree on, which was a fantastic thing that we learned, is why Batman and the Joker are teaming up in the Nightmare timeline, because Joker knows what the kryptonite is. That makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that can stop the Batman from killing the Joker, especially after all like the thing is, you can tell the Joker knows he's safe just by how he's acting. Like,
yeah,
I
know, right?
He's pushing all the buttons.
He's like, you're not going to kill me. I could talk about Robin, your mother, your father. You're not going to kill me. You could tell Batman's like holding his thing. Batman wants to kill him, and he goes, make no mistake, as soon as I don't need you, I'm killing you.
Also, how much do you want to bet the Joker's actually lying and like there actually is no kryptonite in that area? I could totally see.
Dude, that is so cool.
Like what I just said.
Yes, that's such a cool idea. Because how would the Joker know where the kryptonite is? What if he is lying so Batman won't kill him? Dude, there's so many layers that we can go with this. But I think the overall point is there were some cool things that we learned from Full Circle. There were some things that we can disagree on, but still, it is interesting to see where he goes with this. And the last thing that I wanted to say, because a lot of people say he doesn't get these characters and that he doesn't read the comics. And I'm like, well, that's objectively wrong. And they always use this interview he did, which was lifted out of context. I'm going to do a video about that. But the thing is, he said, oh, yeah, I have. The thing is that you have to break down these characters in order for me to build them up. That's the difference between Zack Snyder and what DC and Marvel have done recently. Because what DC and Marvel do when they break down a character, they leave them broken down. Zack Snyder still builds them back up and says, no, and now that you understand the core of this character, now we're going to build them back up to that version of the character that we know.
Or when they break them down and they reassemble them, they come back in a less than desirable form. Thor is a great example.
Oh, yeah, great example. Exactly.
Because, obviously the apex of Thor was Infinity War. Bring me Thanos! And then, honestly, I didn't mind his depression arc, like his PTSD. I actually thought
it made sense.
Yeah, but when he came back, it's just like...
When he came back as Fat Thor?
Or, no, I'm talking about, just the thin Thor from, Love and Thunder. See, here's a problem I have. I think, in terms of Ragnarok, it was a good idea, because Chris Hemsworth is naturally a funny guy. Mm-hmm. I think leading into that was probably a good move.
Yeah.
But the problem is, by the time you got to Love and Thunder, they went too much in that direction. I think I still like Ragnarok because I think it's actually a pretty well balanced movie. I think it balances everything pretty well. And I actually think Ragnarok is probably the best Thor movie.
The thing about it, I disagree. I think Thor 2 is the best Thor movie. I know I'm really that's a hot take, but the thing about it, people took Thor Ragnarok as a palate cleanser, and now we're going to do more of the Infinity War Thor. Because I still say, in terms of characterization, Infinity War was the best. Because he still joked. He still had his jokey moments, but he was still that serious warrior that I love of Thor. But so we took that as a palate cleanser. And then with Infinity War, we're like, okay, so this is the direction they're taking Thor. And then it started in Endgame with the way he was in Endgame, where he was basically too much on the Taika Waititi side. And then you get into.
I gotta say this. I've been holding this.
Yeah.
The way that they treated Fat Thor, both in universe and through the filmmaking, was honestly disgusting. Like his teammates mocked him. He was obviously suffering from like depression, PTSD. Like I'm sorry, that is not how you treat someone with mental health. Okay, I'm sorry. I was like,
yeah, it's okay.
Like mental health is like I'm a person who has mental health issues, so like this topic is really important to me. Like someone who's going through a panic attack, you don't freaking slap them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I'm just trying.
It's all good, dude. That's all good. I had issues with that too.
If I don't stop myself, I'll start screaming, and I don't want to do that to people. So
yeah, exactly. And that was the other issue because it again they're making fun of mental health at that point. Where that's one of the many problems I had with that Thor. But my point still stands. So people thought, okay, Infinity War is going to be the new Thor. He's going to be like partly comedic. You could still have that because he does drop some jokes in the comics. And then you can just do like the regular Thor. Then Love and Thunder comes out where they double down on the stupidity. And everyone's like, but wait, we like that version. Give us that version.
Yep. Taika Waititi will not be coming back.
Oh, yeah. No,
they might, like, honestly, they'll probably have him come back to voice Korg, but that's about it.
I still think he would have been a great director for Deadpool.
The only reason I might agree with that is because Ryan Reynolds is pretty much the star of that show. So Ryan Reynolds could probably keep Taika in check, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying again. But you could. That's where that type of humor would fit. In other words.
Yeah, and Ryan Reynolds is strong enough, both as a person and also plot wise, on the set of Deadpool. He could keep Taika in check because because like Deadpool is like Ryan Reynolds' baby, and like he's very protective of Deadpool. That's why him and Tim Miller had those clashes. Why Tim Miller was not invited back for Deadpool 2. And it kind of like honestly, Dark Fate showed Tim Miller is not that good of a director anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things Dark Fate told us.
So yeah, Jared, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, let me put it this way. I want to reiterate this point because it's always very important. There's going to be bad people on both sides of any fandom, 100%. But do not, and this annoys me, do not paint the entire Snyder fandom or anti-Snyder fandom as toxic. You could say there is a toxic component and just say the toxic component of the Snyder fandom is annoying. That's fine. 100% that's fine because because let me put it this way. When it annoys me the most when social media influencers, there are a few in my mind right now, but I'm not going to mention them publicly, that say, oh, you know, who you Snyder fans know I'm talking about the toxic ones. Yeah, that's fine. We know. But the person watching you that doesn't know is going to assume you're talking about every Snyder fan.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like they use it as a hand wave kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, stop it right now. It's hypocritical and it's annoying. That's my little rant for this episode. But in other words, just be positive. Enjoy what you enjoy. Just because we like Zack Snyder, first off, does not mean we don't read comics. I mean, I've read most of what's on this shelf, except for like 4 shelves that I have in my to read column. Nick has read comics. I know that for sure. So just because we like certain ideas that Zack Snyder does not mean we haven't read the comics. It just means, A, we've read different comics than you have, or 2, we just like different interpretations of these characters. Because I got news for you. Your favorite interpretation of the character is not the only one that exists.
Like for example, a perfect example of the difference between me and Jared. I ship Wonder Bat, which is canon. By the way, this is my channel, so Wonder Bat is canon in my channel.
Actually, according to the Snyderverse, it's not. That was the other great moment of this.
Jared, we are in Phoenix Press territory. You're in my domain. In my domain, Wonder Bat is canon.
Okay, so, but not according to Zack Snyder, but okay.
I am whatever, but in my domain, Wonder Bat is canon. So, but you ship Super Wonder, which by the way is not canon in my domain.
Yeah.
By the way, for those who aren't aware, this is just a running joke that we have between me and Jared. I'm actually a Nightfire shipper, and Jared is Super Wonder, which is whatever.
And Batgirl Nightwing just to mess with Nick.
Thank God this is my channel.
For those of you that want to see a hilarious clip I put together for Nick, I'm not going to play it on this because this is your channel, but come to my channel. A couple of streams back, I made this fantastic compilation for Nick that pissed him off.
You stand on the shoulders of my success, not yours.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like a panther.
I am banning that clip from my channel.
All right. But
If you want to drop it in your channel, that is perfectly fine. But we are in Phoenix Press territory right now.
it was there. But anyway, but
It is not there anymore because as the king of Phoenix Press, I am banning it from my territory. So you don't want to spam it on your channel like 5 times in a row? Be my guest. That is your call. Here, no.
And by the way, I actually have a challenge for for the audience. May I?
Be my guest.
I want you guys, and this is a challenge. You actually have to do this. Spend a month. For those of you that are content creators, spend a month. Have a month off from criticizing other fandoms. Just a month of pure positivity. That's it. See how long you can last. Can you last a month? If you do, you get bragging rights.
That's kind of an impossible task for a lot of these people because the problem is, this is kind of like another topic entirely, and we'll kind of probably go into this deeper at another time. But like a lot of fan circles and like a lot of content creation is based in criticism, based in like, oh, this sucks and whatnot. Like this, like people have made their careers off of criticizing Star Wars, Marvel, DC.
Here's the thing. Let me clarify that. I don't mean criticizing the content that's coming out. I mean criticizing other creators and other fandoms.
That's even harder for some of these people.
You know, I know, because a lot of channels, including some in the anti-Snyder fandom, are built on drama. So yeah, it would be a challenge. Find some other way find some other ways to entertain your audience. Because all you do, because what annoys me is that these channels are the exact same people who complain about the toxicity of the Snyder fandom, and I'm like, look in a mirror.
Because here's the thing about like drama and positivity. The difference is drama and negativity get the clicks. Like there's no denying that. But the thing is, people like Jared, people like myself, we have chosen to walk a different path, a more difficult one. We've chosen to be more positive. Obviously, we do criticize. Obviously, we can sometimes get negative. But by and large, we run our channels with positivity, and we like what we like.
And I got news for you. We still get clicks.
We do, but it's a little bit more of an uphill battle. Like, we are choosing to take the more difficult road because we believe it's a better one.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Jared, if we were all negative and drama, we would be a lot more successful by now, but I don't want that kind of audience.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of like there are some things I won't do for fame.
And I gotta say, both of us have really cultivated an audience of like really good people.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'd say like the people that we have show up in our chats, the people that we have like talk with us on a regular basis. You guys, you're really good people. Like I gotta give you guys some props. Like honestly, when you go on our streams, they're actually really nice. Sure, there can be some disagreements between the fans and I, but it's usually really good. You guys are really good people. Like you guys are like thoughtful, you're kind, you're considerate. I may not agree with everything you guys say, but at least we can have a pleasant discussion about it. So
I mean,
I gotta give props to you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yes,
Sorry,
exactly. It's like, yeah, 100. And you know what's kind of funny? We treat our fans better than DC and Marvel does. Because did you see the Green Arrow artist in the current book was criticizing the Snyder fans, saying thank F that universe is over, and I'm like, I actually put in his comments that is very unprofessional of you to blast someone else's interpretation of these characters when you yourself are interpreting DC Comics characters. It's very unprofessional.
Someone shoot me, please.
But okay, but that's besides the point. But yeah.
All right, so let's put a cap on this, and
actually,
so yeah, we can skip that for now.
Okay, that's fine.
So, Jared, I really appreciate you coming on. Make sure to tune in to the Friday Night Frenzy this week. It's going to be a really great episode, and I appreciate you all. And remember, I can only show you the door. You're the ones to walk through it.